We're going to be working on a pair of Tusk Tong prosthetic. You know those hooks, that amputees have? Well, there's a cable that runs through a stud right here, and they work it with their shoulder, and so they'll pull back on it and it'll close, and they'll let off and it'll open because there's spring in there, right? I don't think it needs to be spring loaded. I believe we can get the amount of force needed without having an assist. This is what I'm going to start out with. Tightening it up right here real quick. I don't want it so tight it won't move right now because I'm just basically, it's no different than any other set of tongs, except for this rein here, that rein right there, is going to get forged up like that, straight up and down. And I could do some bending on it, which I'm going to, and this guy right here will have a stud welded onto it that screws into the prosthetic, right? So that it's going to be sitting off of the prosthetic like that with a cable that will run through this piece here. And I'm wondering, it needs to sit. So if I don't have to go full 90 right here. So I need to get this thing to where it sits open with the cable on it, and then it closes around the piece when they work it with the shoulder, right? So that's what we're gonna be playing with today, is getting all of this figured out. We'll put a twist up here so the cable with a notch, the cable can come down through and lock in. But they don't need to be spring loaded. They don't need to be have a rubber band on these, because the whole point of a pair of tongs is that you want to easily have them let go. So basically, he'll have to learn how to keep it tight. And the reason I'm doing Tusk tongs is because most likely the kid is going to be making knives and stuff like that, but he can also use these as flat bar. And as he progresses in his blacksmithing endeavor, we can work on building him different types of tongs. So we're going to be building these and getting the meat and potatoes of it done. This should be more than long enough to get off the prosthetic, because the prosthetic, it basically goes into the wrist, right, like that, and so it's gonna sit probably about that high off the wrist, and that's not bad when the tongs are in that orientation. Now, which means he'll have to cut his steel no larger than what can fit in here while it's sitting idle. Max width probably being right around an inch and a half. I think that might be, that's where they'll be idle. So this will be up in the vertical position, straight up and down. That stud is only going to move to there, to close down on the steel. So we're only looking at right around an inch and a quarter of movement. That's not that much, and it's going to allow him to have more than enough leverage to hold these tight. The Tusk tongs don't take much to hold the material. Those that have them know that they're extremely user-friendly. They take a little bit to get used to, the dexterity to get them on the steel right away, but no more than anything else. But once you have the steel in there, it doesn't take a lot of down pressure to hold that in there, even when you're beating on it. So I think these are going to be the best bet, and to have them screw in, that's just welding getting the correct thread size and everything, and then welding a stud on the end so that they can screw it in. So, but I'm gonna need the prosthetic for when I do that, because you got to have this end up on top, you know, directly in line where you'd be holding them, and where the everything else lines up. So getting that stud welded on here is probably the most important part of this. I figured let's get this at least trimmed down and started, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, super cool. To me, it's an extremely important project, probably more important than any project I've done. It's gonna be interesting for sure. So just wanted to share with you guys what I was pondering this morning in the shop and getting ready to work on today. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is trace this onto the board here. So when we do this stud on here, we can make sure we get everything lined up in the idle position. It needs to be straight up and down. So that is what we're shooting for right there. Something like that at least. Alright, let's get started. Alright, so we're gonna see how long we can get this thing to sit here next to the forge. May have to change out tanks here. We'll see. Probably gonna end up closing this hole down a little bit. I'm actually thinking about, actually I'm not thinking about it, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna put this bolt through there. Probably go get a different bolt. So that way I have less of a chance of that hole collapsing and then getting all weird. So, but we have to take this stud, right, and come up with it. When it's kind of in that configuration, this needs to be straight up and down. So that is what we're gonna do. Ball peen here. I got it bent a little bit. Need a lot of heat in this. that is it. That right there. Take this nut off. I'm gonna go grab a different nut here. I'm gonna feather some of this out here real quick. We'll get another bolt. And that's up on top. We'll have to shorten one of these just a little bit. Starting to heat up right there just a little bit. Okay, so in the idle position, that's pretty close to straight up and down. They only have to move or close it down that far. So that's not that big of a deal. So this will get screwed into the prosthetic arm. This right here will get twisted and then tapered and made to look all cool and everything. Maybe not even twisted. I might just leave that twist in here, right up here. And then a hole drilled through the top here and then slotted so the cable can be slid down and catch on the hole. And I believe that'll be it. Of course, then we'll snake these, you know, and do that with them. So I got to take this apart. I want to get the nose all snaked and form the bit before I do anything. Now we've definitely moved our piece here, but I won't be able to line them up like I normally do and do them. I'll have to do them. I'll have to eyeball it and do them that way. That's what we're gonna do next. Okay, everybody. So they are not quite done yet, but they are, but they're not. They need to have and attach the stud to the back here that screws in, and that's gonna make or break these set of tongs. But here are the tongs. They have a hole drill in there with a slot for the cable to go through and a nub. It's actually recessed, so if there's a nub on the end of the cable that sits in there so it won't pop out, then it'll recess in there. They hold really good. So these are sized for 3/8 by 1/2 inch, you know. So I got them down pretty small. So I mean, even if the young kid's working on off of larger stock to make a hook, he can use these to do so. So they're sized for that. They go, you know, push it on there and pull the shoulder back. So basically, this cable runs from here to a harness across the back. It comes back down the back of the arm, well, from what I've seen, and you use your shoulder to work this. And so basically we're going to be using gravity to help hold these open, and then you use the shoulder to hold them, to keep them shut. So yeah, it just pulls on the shoulder. This screws in the end. This right here will screw into the end of the prosthetic arm, and an amputee can then work a pair of tongs, or someone just born without a hand or something like that. So, but he already knows how to work a prosthetic attachment like this, and this is just modeled after, you know, the pincher hooks type deal. And I'm gonna see how it works for him, and you know, we'll continue to work this out. You know, it's just another thing in my toolbox that I can make, I guess. But I mean, they weren't that difficult to make, because it's really just a pair of tongs. When I was originally looking at the piece, I was like, I bet you I can make one of these that would work for him, so that he's independent. Because the worst, I mean, not the worst thing, it's not the worst thing for anybody to rely on somebody else to get something done. But the more independent you are, the better psychologically you're going to be, you know, as you grow up. And so, I mean, you're not gonna have any limitations. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you're not gonna train yourself into relying on other people. You're gonna train yourself on getting the job done. And if you want to do something, there's nothing out there that can stop you except for yourself. And so, I'm gonna try and help this young kid go smith with his brother without his brother's help or his mom's help. So I make my tongs out of 3/8 by 1, and I use this piece right here to size everything. So this is sized to hold a piece of 3/8 by 1, right? Now, just letting this, I can hold this pretty good, but as soon as I let go, it wants to drop away. So that could be our saving grace, is that the weight of these is going to open it up. But this can also, let's say he needs to work, or he needs to quench or something on this. This will slide in, and even something like this, the weight of it is already going to want to come out. And then of course these are always good for when you slide past and you hold up tight. You know, they still work the same as the normal tongs. Everything he slides through will eventually, as he goes through his smithing career, if he continues with it, we'll build bigger and tongs to hold wider stuff. Because then it's just, okay, I've worked on this end now I need to go change out the tong size, and then that just takes unscrewing it from the prosthetic and doing its thing. So I'm super pleased that these, I mean, in theory, turned out really good. And with just a finger in here, it's not going to go anywhere. It's really, I mean, it's not going anywhere. Now I'm holding it with my hand now, and they're just as strong as the normal tongs that I make. And I mean, you got to think that this shoulder muscle and everything in between is much stronger than my hand. So I'm thinking these are going to work pretty good. If you know anybody who likes blacksmithing, but because they're missing a limb, like an arm or a hand, this is an option for them. I get these all figured out. If there are people out there that need these, that could use these, that are getting by, maybe if they're smithing right now but quite haven't figured out how to do it, hit me up and I'll make you a pair and ship them to you for free. So I'm not gonna make money off of someone's disability. Not gonna do it. So there they are, folks. A pair of prosthetic attachment, Tusk tongs, knife tongs, flat bar tongs. Nicole, if you're watching, these are free of charge. It's my pleasure to make them. I appreciate everybody. Thank you very much. Stay safe out there. Be well, and forge on.